In this episode, we are going to be diving into one of the most powerful, the most impactful, and least prioritized aspects of improving your health and your wellness. From building muscle to losing weight to making better decisions throughout the day, sleep is the king of your health and fitness. Let's dive in. So again, today, this is going to come off as a potentially boring concept. So we're going to lay some hard facts on you, some hard truths, and connect it to all these different areas that will make it more fun. Because at the end of the day, there are people who will spend thousands of dollars a month on hormone replacement and peptides and supplements and, to a lesser degree, coaching, health coaching. So a few $100s a month on something like health coaching. But if we can't prioritize the free things, we talked about this, in the last episode, as far as the basics never stop working. Sleep is the foundation of the basics. And I know it sounds like, we're beating a dead horse. It's such a simple thing. Oh, if I could sleep more. Well, we're going to give you some strategies to prioritize it a little bit better. But we're also going to give you the incentive and the motivation to actually understand what you can trigger by getting your sleep up just the tiniest little bit.
I feel like sleep is one of those things that when you become a parent, it's almost like you should just expect your sleep to suck for the next 18 years. And I feel like that's become the norm almost, that people just expect and kind of fall into the mindset of, well, there's nothing I can really do if my kids are waking me up. But there is a lot you can do. And I think that's really the direction we want to take this episode. Like, we are 3 parents, obviously. We have young children right now. And even in the midst of the harder seasons where there were more wake ups and we weren't sleeping through the night, there was still a lot that we were doing to make sure that we could sleep and that we could get as much sleep as possible, because truly it impacts every other single area of your health and fitness. And we'll dive into all of those areas. But I just wanted to kind of touch on the parenting side of things too, because I feel like it's almost become this fixed mindset that a lot of people adapt when they become parents. They just expect that they won't sleep and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, I think, Alessandra, you and I have both explored independent sleep and sleep training with our kids. And I know that is kind of a controversial topic. And I know you have a whole episode on that with Samantha Day, who we both used. Like, I started using her because you used her and we absolutely loved her and it was so great. And I think that we might have a different perspective on sleep training, in the sense that we know that prioritizing our kids' sleep means that we can also prioritize our sleep, and we can show up better in our work, in our parenting, etc., when our kids are sleeping, because it means we're sleeping. And so I, can sometimes see the counter argument. And I was the very same way. Like, when I was a few months postpartum with Sloan and she was not sleeping at all, I was still like, I'll never sleep train. I'll never sleep train. Like, I'm not going to force her to go to sleep, or like me not go in the room if she needs me. And this is like a whole other thing, but I think there's so many misconceptions about sleep training. Like, you're not necessarily just like throwing your kid in a room and ignoring them for the rest of the night. Like,
go back and listen to that episode with Samantha if you think that's what it is.
If you think that that's what it is, go back and first listen to that episode with Sam. But I think that we kind of approach sleep differently with our kids, because we know the value of sleep for a multitude of reasons, whether it's hormones, muscle growth, growth of our children in general, mental health, brain health, and so on. But I think we also just know how well we function when we get enough sleep, and we need our kids to get enough sleep if we're going to get enough sleep. So I think there's maybe a different interplay there.
There is so much that goes into, you talk about not even just health, but just behavior. Like, if you're not sleeping as an adult, if we're not sleeping well, we're not bringing it to the table the next day. We have a short fuse. So imagine being a kid who then has to go to school and try to pay attention and sit in the chair and listen for the entire day. Like, it all starts with simple foundational habits. And we talk about this again over and over in different ways and from different angles. But that's the truth of the matter. It comes into what we're eating, comes into how we handle recovery and all those things throughout the day. But to kind of circle back directly to sleep, it's almost like a chicken or the egg scenario. It's like, I am so tired at the end of the day. I have no interest in like just going to bed, because then it's Groundhog's Day. I start over and I do it all over again. Give me like 2 hours to just veg out to Netflix and not think about anything, to not be mom or dad. I just need that time to decompress, which is entirely fair. At the same time, the more you continue that cycle, the more you're going to rely on that cycle, and you're never going to catch up on sleep. It's never going to be a scenario where you are able to wake up earlier and start the day on your terms. So there is this, like, I call it a 1 week break-in period where it just sucks and you're going to be a little pissed off about it. But you get to bed, let's say you get into bed and start reading at like something ridiculous, 8:30. There are plenty of days that we are in bed at 8:30 or 8 o'clock if it's been a crazy day. Because we know it's like the only thing we want to do is watch a fucking movie. Sit on the couch for 2.5 hours and watch a really good movie. But it's like, you know what? What's going to serve me more? And having done both sides, like now we have the awareness to reflect and be like, we want to do this right now, but what's going to pay dividends for the rest of the week and especially tomorrow is drinking this tea, reading this book, and get my ass to sleep.
I'm glad you said that though, because we haven't always been this way. Like, yeah, we've always kind of gone to bed on the earlier side, maybe with the exception of like the beginning stages of growing our business, where we had to like work our full-time job and then come home and like handle 100 clients and work until 11 p.m. But we are not perfect, and we definitely have had days and weeks and seasons where we did choose the Netflix option, or we, just simply weren't prioritizing sleep as much as we are now. And I can tell you, it really does make a huge difference, even if you are being woken up multiple times throughout the night. So I'm glad you kind of set the tone there, Josh, because I think people think sometimes that like we've always been this way. We've always been focused on sleeping 8 hours a night and having perfect sleep hygiene, but we are just like you guys. We all started somewhere. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
You want to talk about breaking habits? In college, like my thing was we were up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was training at that point. So I was still drunk when I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, threw down a pre-workout and went to work. That was my habit foundation. That's what I was working with.
That's insane.
Insane.
That's insane. I want to come back to a conversation that I had with a friend a few months ago who was really struggling with her sleep. She's like, I probably get like 5 or 6 hours of sleep per night. And I was like, and she had a toddler at the time and like a baby who was a few months old. And I was like, is the baby sleeping? Like, is your sleep like duration so low because you're up a lot with the baby? And she's like, no, actually, like the baby sleeps through the night, but we don't get in bed till like 11 or so because my toddler doesn't really go to bed till like 10. So we want that extra hour of downtime, post bedtime. And I'm like, I totally hear that. I totally can get down with like my kids go to bed. I'm like, I have an hour of just like husband-wife time. Great. Love it. Like I live for that hour of my day. But why is your toddler in bed at 10 o'clock at night? Like, and obviously like everyone's family is different. Let me preface this now. Like everyone's different. Do what you got to do. But that would not fly in my house. Like we are so strict about a 7 o'clock bedtime. And I know that like I'm going to have to adjust with the times as like Sloan continues to get older. Like I know she's not going to be 15 having a 7 o'clock bedtime.
Says who?
But like I am going to hang on to that as long as humanly possible because I'm already like I already see Kai get more like bedtime at like 8 o'clock and I'm like no, like I want to keep that 7 o'clock. I want to keep that 7 o'clock as long as I can because that our kids going to bed at 7. And granted, like, you're starting that process at maybe like 6:45. And by the time everyone's down and everyone's got their books read and everyone's like done, like it could be 7:15, 7:30. And like you said, if we're getting ready for bed by 8:30, you're like, I just want that 1 hour, like that 1 hour of peace at the end of my day. I could not imagine like my toddlers going to bed when I'm going to bed. Like I would lose my mind. And again, like to each their own, everyone's going to do what they got to do. And like, if that works for your family, by all means, and I know you guys are the same way. Like that would just never fly in my house. I know it wouldn't fly in your house either.
Well, what you said is important. If that is working and if you're happy, great. We give you a virtual high five. You don't need to change anything. But if you're doing that and you're also complaining and you don't love how that feels.
Is that working though? Like
then it's not working. Yeah.
Right. So. Is that actually working? If you're like, I'm so tired, I don't have the energy to get my workouts in. That's kind of like how the conversation started, was like, I'm so tired. I don't have the energy to get my workouts in. I don't feel like I could prioritize myself. I don't feel like I have time. And I'm like, what does sleep look like? Oh, well, like our toddler goes to bed at 9 or 10, then we go to bed like 11 or 12. And I'm like, but that works for us. It's like, does it though? Does it though?
Normal is not optimal. And, you know, and you might hear the pushback, well, they don't want to go to bed yet. Well, who's the parent in the house? Like, this is where I don't get down with gentle parenting. Like, you lay the foundation, you lay the rules, and
Josh. Josh is not
let's get him triggered. It is what it is. It is your job to be the parent. The kid doesn't dictate when they go to bed, when they go to school, the things that they want to do on a minute by minute basis when there are things that have to get done. Like, it is your job to build your child up, to teach them how to, you know, function, and to explain the benefit on that. Like, if your kid is waking up tired, they're waking up late, you're dragging them to school, they're getting poor grades, or they're not, you're getting notes home, hey, they're not behaving. Well, these are things that go into that. Like, if you feed them well, if they are sleeping well, those things improve naturally and your life gets easier. So again, if this is working and you love it and everything's fine and dandy at your house, cool. Like, this doesn't apply to you. But if it's not, don't settle for this being the norm and acting like you're backed into a corner, because there are ways to go around it and to make things better and to improve. It's up to you to lay down the law, lay down the foundation, and make it happen.
I'm going to I know we're short on time, but I'm going to still go off on a tiny little tangent here, because we're mentioning sleep and kids, and like you mentioned, like kids' behavior. This is, and I sort of hate to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Because we recently, a few weeks ago, were like heavy in the thick of the die conversations. When I was having those conversations with people in my DMs and comment sections, when I was speaking about that, I'd have a lot of teachers and parents coming in to be like, well, my kid's behavior sucks and my kid is bouncing off the walls and I'm sure it's because of his food. And I'm not saying it's not, because I know that there are kids and parents and teachers who have seen a kid has this food dye and they seem to be hyperactive after. And I'm not gonna discredit that. What I am going to say is, how much screen time is your kid getting? How much physical activity is your kid getting? How much sleep is your kid getting? Because dyes may very well be a component to your specific kid's hyperactivity, but also, is your kid sleeping? Are they outside? Are they getting physical activity? Are they ever getting to let out their physical energy? Are they only ever on a video game system, a screen, an iPad, a TV, a movie? Like, what does all of that stuff look like? And so I wanted to bring that up because it feels like a relevant piece of the puzzle, because I think we're often so quick to blame other things in our life that could potentially be resolved with more sleep, more movement, more nutrients, and things like that. So I know that a lot of our conversations and podcasts come back to like the pillars, the L5 method, the basics, but it's like, that's for a reason. Like, I know sometimes it sounds like we're probably beating a dead horse, like sleep, vegetables. Like, I know it's not sexy, but like, that's the stuff. Those are the big rocks that we have to be talking about if we're going to improve health.
That is such a critical point. So if our kids are up, even 9:30, 10, after that point, you think they're up because they're outside playing soccer? What do you think they're doing? Are you guys inside playing games, playing some board games, playing Monopoly, a couple Monopoly tournaments going on at night? Are you reading? Or are we playing video games and watching Netflix until 10 o'clock?
If I was out that late, when I was like a teenager, if I was out that late, we were playing Manhunt with the kids in my neighborhood, running around in the dark. And now I think back and I'm like, I'd never let my kids do that. But when we were kids, like, you were truly outside playing, and your mom was like, come home when it gets dark, or like come home for dinner or whatever. And you were out playing. Yep. Actually
different
outside
times,
playing.
different times.
Yeah.
But
totally
to that point, that's probably not happening right now. That's probably not why we're awake. But to kind of come full circle, like, we're at an age now with Kai. I know you mentioned 8. Like if it's 8, we fucked up that night and we're just going to bed a little late after watching something together. Core is 6:45 typically. Kai is usually 7:30. It's usually a little bit after by the time we get our routine and bedtime stories wrapped up. But we've also kind of tried to hack the algorithm a little bit where he's old enough now where we can find some things that like they're not going to be our shows usually, but like I can get down with some Lego cartoons or what's the other one? Bluey. I don't mind Bluey. I think that
Parents love Bluey.
Bluey's dad is the dad we all aspire to be.
I have seen like on social media people talking about like just Bluey episodes making mom and dads cry, and I'm like, I've never watched it, but like it sounds like a good show for parents.
They are such good parents.
Yeah.
Bluey's parents.
But no, you have a point, Josh. Like, yeah, he's staying up a little bit later, but he's chill. He's hanging with us. He's like our little bestie. So it's a
And you guys
different.
have probably, yeah, sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say you guys have probably made that final hour before bedtime like, hey, this is wind down time. Like we're either gonna sit and read a book or we're just gonna chill and like have family time, but like this is not entertain Kai time. Like mom and dad are gonna entertain Kai time.
There's dinner. We don't watch TV until after dinner. Then we'll throw on a Tangled or something for Cora, and she'll go down after like a half an hour. And then once a week, I will say, maybe you guys like this, if you don't, we will get Kai watching Fire Country once a week. That'll be like Fire Country.
It's like an adult show. He likes
He
firemen.
loves fires. He loves fires and firemen and policemen. So like, Mike, he might like this. Some of them I'll cover his eyes for some parts that are a little, on the border. But I'm like, all right, we're putting out a fire today.
But
That
he
sounded
loves
like
it.
a little bit of gentle parenting, Josh, that you covered his eyes.
Yeah, I'm still aware. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit of strategy, and then let's dive into the nitty gritty. Okay. So as far as, being, whether you're a busy human, busy parent, whatever you got going on, what do your sleep foundations look like? What does the end of your day look like? And then what are your non-negotiables when it comes to sleep hygiene?
You want to start, Joelle?
Sure. So funny enough, I haven't posted this yet, so I kind of don't want to spill all the beans because you're going to see an Instagram post soon. But I feel like the podcast gets all the good stuff first. Anyway, I did a research review recently that was a study on sleep. What did they call it? Not sleep duration. It was sleep regulation, like the timing of the hours that you're sleeping. So not just like getting 8 hours of sleep, but getting the same 8 hours of sleep, like 9 to 5, versus 12 to 8 one night, 9 to 5 another night. And it went on essentially I could pull up all the notes if you want me to really get into the nitty gritty, but essentially it went on to talk about how even more beneficial than sleep duration and sleep quality was sleep regularity in terms of the timing. And I know that can be stressful for some people because things don't always go as planned. You can't always get everything down to the last minute, but it basically said if you could be within an hour time frame of when you go to sleep and when you wake up, that was even more protective against cancer, all-cause mortality, et cetera, than sleep duration and getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. So that has been something in the back of my head lately of okay, even if you're getting 8 hours, it matters even more how regular your sleep is in terms of bedtime and wake time. So that's been something that I've been paying a lot of attention to lately.
So for to slightly dig into the weeds there a little bit, is there any, do they highlight any points on if you're going to bed in this same rhythm, this same routine, same hours, you're likely sleeping at a higher quality? So as opposed to going from 9 to 5 and then say, 11 to 8, and then one night it's 8 to 4. It was just for a random example. When you're going regularly within that hour, you're typically going to be asleep for longer, so your efficiency is going to be up, and you're probably rotating through sleep cycles more efficiently as well, so sleep quality is going to be improved. Did they bring up the point that just within that plus or minus hour, those things are by default typically better?
I don't believe so. I know that the original study was that they wanted to explore the relationship between the regularity of one's sleep, to see if regularity affected the risk of cancer, cardiometabolic diseases, all-cause mortality. And they also wanted to determine if sleep regularity was an even stronger predictor of mortality risk than sleep duration. So I don't think that they necessarily looked at which 8 hours people were sleeping that were necessarily the most advantageous. It was more so duration of sleep versus regularity of bedtimes and wake times. But there was quite a bit in there about that the benefit of the regularity was the benefit of having a more regular circadian rhythm that's not all janky from
general bodily functions versus necessarily sleep quality. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I know that circadian rhythm was a really, really big piece of it. And they essentially found that sleep regularity had a clear, very, very clear relationship with mortality risk. And those who had higher sleep regularity had a lower risk of mortality. And then they also did something interesting where they adjusted for pre-existing conditions. Let me find it here. I just pulled it up in front of me. Is even more protective. So sleep regularity remained a stronger predictor for all-cause mortality even after adjusting for factors like pre-existing health conditions and lifestyle. So they also went on to say, like, okay, let's look at lifestyle behaviors. Let's look at pre-existing conditions. Then does it change? Nope. Sleep regularity still mattered most.
That makes sense.
Interesting. It does make sense. Yeah. Well, I think when we're super consistent with our bedtime and wake time routines, which is honestly most of the time now, obviously that will change in a couple months when we have a newborn. But like I notice when I wake up in the morning, I'm more alert and awake, less groggy, and then I fall asleep much easier at night when I am consistent versus like, let's say we have a random weekend where we're up late does not happen often, but like it happens sometimes. I'm sure for Christmas and stuff we'll be up. But like when I get thrown off of that consistent schedule, I notice it's harder for me to get to bed the next night. I'm feeling it much more when I wake up in the morning. So I fully like just personal anecdotally, like I just relate to that so much. And I think the circadian rhythm portion of it makes sense.
Yeah, also, if you're listening to this and you work night shifts, I'm sorry for that news.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that too. Cause like if I know we have a ton of clients who do or they're just shift workers in general. You have to focus on what you can control. And if you really are in a job that you dislike, like I think of Coach Robin, who it's not that she hated her job as a law enforcement officer. She just did not love the lifestyle that came with it, and she made a change in her life. So know that you're not stuck if you're somewhere that you don't want to be, but if you are loving your job, focus on what you can control here, and we'll get into more tangible things that you can control.
Yeah, it really does come down, everything does, to controlling what you can control. So for us, it's really staying off the phone as much as possible. And we're still kind of working during that transition and the kids are watching stuff. So sometimes we are on our phones and our computers. But, in the ideal scenario, if you guys are in a 9 to 5 and you can come home, have your dinner, do something with your hand, like go write a book, writing in your journal, go do a project, go write in your journal, do something off technology. Because once the kids go to bed, like you're going to want to put that thing on and just veg out for the next 3 hours. So if you can already be unplugged and then transition to some unwinding routine, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's tea and reading, anything along those lines where you can kind of decompress your mind before you lay it down in bed so your mind isn't racing and you can actually fall asleep. If you want to get really biohacky, swapping out your bedroom lights for the amber lights takes out a ton of the blue lights, and dimming your lights if you have the ability to do so.
Or just use a lamp instead of like an overhead light. Like if you have lamps in your bedroom, even if it's a normal light bulb, like that's better than having something on that's like bright overhead.
Yeah, you talk about affecting circadian rhythm. Those are some things that have the biggest effects. Naturally, obviously, we're going to be most awake when it's bright, and we're going to start calming down and ramping up that melatonin production as things start to darken during the night. So little things along those lines when it comes to sleep hygiene. And again, regularity. It's being consistent with that timing day after day after day, not 3 out of 7 days, not 4 out of 7 days, 7 out of 7. And then when we talk about, again, moderation, understanding it's not always going to be perfect and that's okay. That's fine. When it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But that's what we are aiming for on a consistent basis.
I want to circle back to just actionable steps for quality sleep. I mean, you've obviously just heard us say, keeping a consistent sleep and wake cycle when possible, even when weekends, when possible. But a few other things to keep in mind. Getting bright, natural light in your eyes first thing in the morning is another really helpful thing to help your circadian rhythm and improve your overnight sleep. We also, like, once the girls go down for bed, I pretty much like shut all the lights in the house. Brand sometimes like, Joelle, we're eating dinner and it's pitch black in the house. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't want the lights on. But like at nighttime, we really start to dim the lights, like limit the overhead lights. But consistent bedtime routine, sunshine first thing in the morning, if possible, limiting super bright lights at nighttime. Two other really key things for me are my room as dark as possible and cold bedroom, like reducing the temperature in your bedroom. I think that the like quote optimal temperature is somewhere between like 62 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. Sorry, Canadians. And everyone else who doesn't use Fahrenheit. But making sure that your room is cool can really help to improve sleep. The other thing that I have noticed too, and this is cool about, I know we've talked about Oura Ring stuff, but like taking a hot shower before bed is supposed to help improve sleep too, from like a blood flow and cooling down standpoint. And so I will see a difference in my Oura scores on the days that I took a hot shower before bed versus like went to bed dirty and skipped my nighttime shower.
Something I did in the newborn phase with Cora, like once I was using the sauna again, I would sauna before bed. And that really helped me like relax. And yeah, she was waking me up, but like it helped me get to sleep early, knowing I was going to be woken up a few times. So hot shower, sauna, whatever hot modality you have access to is, it makes a huge difference.
And that works on both sides of things. If you hit the cold shower or the cold plunge in the morning, that heating up process helps with awakening. So we get cold to make our body heat up, and then at night, cooling down helps us fall asleep. So when we get hot, our body turns on that cool down mechanism to fall asleep. So it does work on both sides, and it is helpful in regards to circadian.
Is it even a fitness league podcast if Josh doesn't talk at least once about a cold plunge?
Here's Josh's
just
pitch
laying
to
it on
Joelle.
for you. Just laying it on for you. We will. People are requesting it. They want the Joelle vlog cold plunge. It will happen in 2025. I can promise you that.
Doing a vlog cold plunge, y'all.
I know we got to go quick. So final points before we jump into the fun stuff.
One other point that I wanted to make, and Josh, I know you will echo this, is to avoid eating larger meals close to bedtime, because sometimes that can interfere with sleep too.
I'll say eating period within 3 hours, large or not.
Yeah. I mean, transparently, I don't follow.
I know you can't. Some people can't. I know.
I can't do that.
With Brent's schedule.
If you can, though, it's worth an experiment to try and see if it does help.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So what is this actually affecting within your body? What's it improving? What's it making better when we are prioritizing sleep? And these are things you're going to see improvements. Maybe you're not getting to 8 hours a night, but if you're at 4.5, 5, and get that to 5.5, 6, these things are all going to start improving. So don't act like it needs to be perfect. If you just focus on improving as much as you can, controlling the controllables. So starting off with sleep and hormones. Sleep is obviously vital for maintaining hormonal balance. Sleep deprivation can actually increase cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which can lead to weight gain. And we'll talk about some different aspects of that here in a second. Also leads to heightened stress sensitivity, disrupted sleep cycles. It's going to impact your appetite regulating hormones by reducing leptin, which is going to signal fullness, and increasing ghrelin, which is a hunger signal. And those things, obviously, understanding what those do is going to lead to increased appetite and cravings. This imbalance does typically result in overeating and that weight gain. So additionally, insufficient sleep will disrupt sex hormone production, such as testosterone, which will affect your energy levels, your mood, muscle growth, some things we'll dive into in a minute. But it's all going to come back to sleep and just getting it up a tiny little bit. And all those little things are immediately affected.
Yeah, I think I noticed personally a huge increase in cravings and just appetite when my sleep is off. Like I tend to be I want more snacky type foods the next day, and I don't have the mental energy to think about what a balanced meal is. And I know a lot of our clients can relate to that too. And it really does come back to your sleep. Like, yes, when it comes to cravings, there may be other things going on where maybe you're not eating enough food in general, or you're just not eating balanced meals, and then your blood sugar is all over the place. But sleep can have a massive impact on that. And I really want to drive that point home, because I'm sure a lot of you will notice an immediate difference when you start to sleep better with things like cravings and your appetite and your hunger levels.
Yeah, Coach Brad wrote an email about this last year around the holiday season, that his like number one tip for the holiday season you'd think would be like, oh, like make sure you're getting enough vegetables, or like get outside even though it's winter. And his was like sleep. Like sleep is something that gets neglected during that holiday season. And he spoke specifically about how sleep impacts decision making, and dove into some of the research there about looking at a normal night of sleep compared to, I think this study was like partial sleep deprivation. So they looked at a single night where people got about half of their normal sleep and less REM sleep. And it showed that they made more impulsive decisions and more risky decisions the next day compared to when they got normal nights of sleep. So, that doesn't mean you're going to like jump off a bridge tomorrow, obviously. But if you then, don't get that great night of sleep, it becomes a lot easier to maybe grab those extra snacks, or grab those extra sweets, or grab another second helping, third helping, fourth helping of something. So that sleep really can impact our decision-making skills. And especially when it is connected to, we have higher hunger cues and less satiety cues and poorer decision-making. Well, that's kind of a recipe for overindulgence or overeating and so on.
And for those wondering about the actual mechanism, like why is this happening? Sleep reduction or sleep deprivation, to go on an extreme, does cause a reduction in activity in the prefrontal cortex. And that's what governs our self-control, our rational thinking. So are we going to go cliff jumping off something ridiculous? Maybe it's not to that extent, but indulging in the more unhealthy foods, skipping workouts, having less motivation, quote unquote, less drive to get the things done that we've committed to. That's where it all starts. So getting an increased amount of sleep will help improve these different areas. Now, we were going to kind of segment these, but we're running low on time and they're all blending together anyway. So if we jump right into the decision-making and nutritional choices, specifically some of the things you might start craving are those higher calorie foods, the higher fat foods, the higher sugar foods. It's going to kind of affect the brain's reward system, making those unhealthy choices a little bit more appealing. It also affects insulin sensitivity, which can contribute to poor blood sugar regulation, weight gain, metabolic issues. I cannot talk today. I need a third cup of coffee.
Do you need more sleep, Josh?
I need more sleep.
Really.
You know what? I told you I've been sleeping well.
You did work late last night because you were texting me something
Yeah, I
at
woke
like
up to
9:15,
20
and I was like, "Why is he up?"
I wasn't going to answer. I was in the process of winding down, and you sent something. I'm like, let me just check this 4 times, and then it's 9:30.
Okay.
And we're not
I was
asleep
answering
yet.
because I was on my computer working way too late as well.
Exactly. So we're going to fix that tonight, guys.
Yes,
But
we are.
moral of the story, you are directly impacting decision making. You are directly impacting those nutritional choices. Anything you guys want to add in those departments before we kind of circle back to growth and recovery in regards to the muscles?
Nope. Let's keep
All
it
right.
moving.
Keep it moving. So we did touch on the reduction in testosterone. To dive into that a little bit further when it comes to sleep deprivation, the other side of things is just sleep quality. Improving sleep is essential for building muscle. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone. That's the driving factor for muscle repair and growth. It also inhibits sleep deprivation does. Here we go. Sleep deprivation, me, inhibits muscle protein synthesis, which is the process of building new muscle tissue, and increases the likelihood of being in a catabolic state where the body breaks down muscle for energy, which is obviously going to impact strength, endurance, and overall athletic performance.
Something that I believe Tom wrote a previous email that I thought was an interesting fun fact was a lot of these studies that looked at, sleep impacting muscle growth and strength, looked at one single night of poor sleep and how one single night of poor sleep had an impact. So if you are chronically somebody who is not sleeping well, that goes up. Like it's not good news. I'm sorry. But, these things happen at even more of a significant rate. So if you are somebody who is focused on wanting to gain as much muscle mass as possible, wanting to get as strong as possible, you really do have to treat yourself like a professional athlete would treat themselves. And I think that's somewhere along the way, that's something I sort of adapted personally. Like when I approach my nutrition and fitness and training, like I acted like a professional athlete, even though I'm nowhere near a professional athlete. Like, yeah, I was competitive at one point, but you really have to prioritize your health and all of these little things in the same way that a professional athlete would if you want the maximum benefit and if you want to feel good and see progress. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Joel, feel free to add whatever you were going to add.
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, I don't have the exact stat on this one, but it was something like 20 times more likely to get sick when you have one night of like an hour or 2 hours less of sleep. So that one night you go out drinking, you wake up and you get fucking not trashed from the drinking, but trashed from whatever bug hit you last night. You are significantly more likely from that single night of sleep deprivation to actually get sick. So something to keep in mind, especially during sixth season here. When it comes to boosting quality sleep, this is also going to accelerate physical recovery, obviously helping repair those tissues, reduce inflammation, replenish energy reserves, as during sleep, the body restores glycogen, which is the energy that is stored in muscles. So clearing those metabolic byproducts that accumulate during exercise, a big bonus there. And poor sleep is obviously going to delay these processes. Some metrics we've touched on that you guys can pay attention to if you wear something like an Oura Ring: resting heart rate variability, deep sleep. So resting heart rate, RHR, keeping that or getting that low during sleep does indicate good cardiovascular fitness. And a higher HR may indicate an addition of stress, fatigue, overtraining. So some variables that are applied there. Or you're pregnant. HRV, when it's higher, reflects a well-recovered and adaptable system, while lower HRV may indicate accumulated stress and fatigue. And then deep sleep is the most restorative stage. So paying attention to that number exclusively. They're all important to rotate through, but in deep sleep, very critical for physical recovery, immune function, mental clarity, and obviously inadequate deep sleep is going to lead to those things becoming impaired. Now, when it comes to stress perception, and we'll probably wrap it up with this one, sleep does strengthen emotional resilience. So that is actually going to help people perceive and manage stress much more effectively. This goes back into decision making. When we are sleep deprived, the brain's amygdala, which is the emotional center, becomes overactive, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for that emotional regulation, becomes underactive. And this imbalance makes everyday challenges feel more overwhelming and increases irritability, reduces that stress tolerance. You talk about resilience and some of the practices we do throughout the day to improve those. You are starting in a deficit if you are struggling with sleep and not prioritizing sleep and just accepting that it has to be a lower number. So those are some immediate benefits, guys, or detriments, depending on what side of things you're on, that you can expect from what you're doing with that sleep routine. I know we got to keep it tight. So if you guys don't have anything else to jump in with, where can they find you?
But maybe we'll do a part 2 on like the rest of our thoughts about sleep. But I think that gave everybody a good overview.
Yeah, I think it's a good wrap up and good reminder that sleep is going to affect just about everything. When it comes to your mental health, your brain health, your mood, your tolerance, your stress resilience, your muscle recovery, your strength, your performance, your hormones, and so on. So
your longevity markers, your wrinkles on my face. I gotta get. I'm trying to hack that right now.
There is a lot you can do, and a lot you do have control over when it comes to getting better sleep. Nobody's perfect when it comes to their sleep. You're never going to get perfect sleep every single night. Focus on what you can control, implement some of those actionable steps we listed earlier, and I guarantee it's only going to help. It's not going to be something that makes things worse.
And if you need help laying that foundation, guys, guess what? We've got the app. We've got one-on-one health coaching. If you're curious, you're wondering who are these guys, everyone else seems like a scam, just don't even book a call yet. Go to our page, check out our team's credentials. It's going to blow your mind. The credentials, the people we have on our team are the best of the best. So go check them out. Leave us a 5-star review if you haven't already and you're listening to 3 episodes. I'm going to leave that there. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
At Joelle Samantha.
At Josh Skutnick.
And
Everything
if you're
else you
watching
need-
this, check out Josh's new shirt.
You guys like that? It's not
Look at
currently
that.
available yet, but it's a soft plug. It's backwards too, unless it's going to turn around when
you
we.
better not.
It's
turn
not backwards to me right now.
It's not. Oh, why is it
No.
backwards to me? It's messing me up.
Oh,
Around.
it's forward.
You can't show them what's on the back, but soon.
Oh. I think I know what's on the back, but I haven't actually seen
You
it.
can
We'll
see
show
it.
you. No,
Maybe
This
I've
is-
seen it online.
I reordered the shirt because the first one I got, I bought an oversized shirt in the size up, which just was
Okay,
essentially me
was too
buying a
big.
parachute. This is the this is my rebuy.
Gotcha.
All right,
Okay.
catch you guys in the next one.
See ya.